Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen here with another Wednesday. We're going to look at my new Kickstarter from Letter Games. The Root Marauder expansion and Hireling box came in finally. And I know that they've been dealing with a lot of shipping issues and whatnot, and I know that they were doing a rolling fulfillment, so some people receive theirs before other people, so on and so forth, but mine finally came in, thank God. So we're going to take a look inside and see what we get. Starting with the actual Marauders expansion, I think. Maybe? Yeah, let's look in this first. So Marauders is going to add two new factions, the Lord of the Hundreds and the Keepers in Iron. And I believe inside here we should get a couple of hirelings as well, and then you get the rest of the hirelings with the other box. I guess. We'll find out. It does say Forest Patrol, Feline Physicians, Last Dynasty, Bluebird, Nobles, Spring Uprising, Rabbit Scouts, and the Exile and the Bandit. But it says play with. So maybe this specifically just has the two new factions? And the Hireling box has the entirety of the other hirelings? Or the entirety of the hirelings in general? I don't know. Let's take a look. Get the trusty cutter out here and open up the box. Boom. So if you don't know what Root is, it is an asymmetrical area control game. And when I say asymmetrical, I literally mean that every single solitary faction plays completely different from the other ones. And their way to victory can be completely different. Like if you're playing the moles, they don't necessarily want to get in confrontations. They want to spend their time bringing their monarchs or whatever up so that they can take advantage of their constant abilities. If you're playing the cats, obviously it's all about confrontation, so on and so forth. So it's a nice interior of the box, not gonna lie. Okay, so anyway, we have the learning to play. I don't want to go into these rules because it's probably the same as everything else, so we're just gonna jump in real quick to see. I don't think there's anything different. I'm not gonna go through this too heavily because it's time consuming and not much has changed here. It talks about the hirelings a little bit, yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. We have the Law of Root, which again is just a giant rule book. Very similar to the remaining rule books. Then we have this token sheet. It's got a whole bunch of tokens. So some of these tokens here are for the Vagabond. So these bottom tokens, I believe, are all Vagabond tokens. They're supposed to represent where you are in standing with the Vagabond. Oh, no. That's going to be these guys. That's what these guys are. Because there's two of each of these. And the moles and the corvids were the only ones that didn't get two in the previous expansion. So these are specifically for the Vagabond. These other ones are victory point tokens to keep track of your victory, and there's two Vagabond tokens because you can play up to two Vagabonds. Then we have these guys right here, which I'm sure belong to specific characters. What appear to be more tools, maybe for the Vagabond, and some other interesting stuff. I'm not sure what these are, or really what any of these counters are, but yeah, so we have our token sheet right there. Then we have, at the very top, the Lord of Hundreds. So we're finally going to take a look at a mouse faction. So originally, the green faction from the core box, which was all of the different forest animals banding together against the Marquis, was the closest that we got to mice. This one is nothing but mice. Yes. Okay, so you have a good look at that. And then the back of the board has the component manifest and talks about playing them, talks about complexity, setup, so on and so forth. Because like I said, every faction plays completely different from each other. Ooh, and you get a mob dice. And mood cards. Ooh, I like that. These guys sound scary, actually. Alright, so that is the Lord of Hundreds. Next up, we have the Keepers in Iron. Just put those guys up there. I don't know what kind of badger they are. I just know that they're badgers. I don't know if they're like honey badgers or a specific, breed of badger. But here we have the Keepers of Iron. I vaguely remember that the Keepers of Iron... Or is it the... Oh, wait. Maybe it's the Lord of Hundreds. I vaguely remember the Lord of Hundreds wants to destroy things. Whereas I think the Keepers in Iron want to keep things safe. So that was the front. This is the back. Again, we're just looking at the component manifest as well as, a little bit about the faction, complexity, so on and so forth, setup. These are the badgers. You have faithful retainers, 3 of them. And some relics. Way stations? Interesting. All right, so those are the 2 new factions. Let's keep digging. So again, one of the things that Letter Games does often, and I definitely give them praise for this. Can I get a focus on that though? They give us extra plastic bags. Sometimes there's way too many, but it helps you organize the way you want them organized. Even look at that, another empty bag. Very cool. Then we have a big bag of... Well, I don't know if I want to look at that just yet. Let's look at the dice. No. Let's look at the cards. Is there anything in the box besides that? It's just a single valley. Okay, so we're going to look at these cards. This should have faithful retainers as well as maybe a couple other things in here. And it looks like the pull tab was somewhat easy to pull out, even though it's not intuitive. Come on, guys. There we go. Okay, so what we got here, advanced setup. I don't know what that means. Got some overview cards. Okay, so we're going to take a look. Well, actually, yeah, okay. So the first one is the overview of the Lord of Hundreds. So this is something that you would hand to your opponents so they can read about it and figure out what it is exactly that the Lord of Hundreds does. You don't necessarily need this yourself because I believe this is the exact same stuff that you would see on the back of your board. But this just helps your opponents understand what you're dealing with. Then we have some cards here. Grandiose, Stubborn. These are the moods. Bitter. Lavish. I wonder if these guys are supposed to be rats, actually. Relentless. Wrathful. Jubilant. And Rowdy. I think that's it, yep. Next up, we're going to have the overview for the Keepers in Iron, as well as their 3 faithful retainers. We have... Oh, I guess they're just called faithful retainers. And they look as though they're part of the Eerie, which is so confusing. This is very confusing. All right, we have some advanced setup here. Marquis de Cat, Eerie Dynasties, Woodland Alliance, Vagabond, 2 Vagabonds. Are these the randomizers? Riverfolk Company, Lizard Cult, Underground Duchy, Corvid Conspiracy, Lord of the Hundreds. Oof, that's a huge point cost. Keepers in Iron. So I wonder if these are here to help you set up your games. Like Marquis de Cat costs 10. Because I do remember that the first Vagabond cost 5, the second one only cost 2. Not really sure what these are for, but if I had to say, I would say that these are to help you randomize races and make sure that the game is still balanced. That's what I'm going to guess. Don't quote me on that. Have not read the rules. I I like to be as surprised as everyone else. Next, we're going to take a look at the dice. So 2 of these dice I know. This one specifically is for the Lord of Hundreds. Yeah, there we go. And this one is specifically for the Woodland Alliance. And I think actually specifically for the Hireling of the Woodland Alliance. Whereas this one is for the actual Lord of Hundreds faction. Let me just look at the back. It's the mob die. So this is the mob die, and this one is the die for the Hireling for the other faction. Then we have this die. I'm not really sure what it is. It only seems to have 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, 2, 3, and 4. There's only 1 4. And a majority of 2s with 1, 2, 3. So 3 2s, 2 3s, and 1 4. Not sure what it's used for. Neither faction actually mentions that they have that in their as part of their setup. It is really neat. The gold paint in here really pops on this. So it's got gold and like a fall autumn orange. All right. Another set of cards in here. These are really long cards. Oh, these are the Hirelings, aren't they? The Brigand. I think these are the Hirelings. Is there a way to open these without damaging? Yes. Very clever. All right, so we have some Hirelings. This is the Brigand, which is a Vagabond Hireling. What does the back look like? Ooh, it has another side. The Exile. Put the Exile pawn in any forest and the 3 club items on here. Oh, interesting. A really, really big Vagabond who uses a different... So that's what those clubs were on here. These are typically Vagabond items, but specifically these ones are for this guy. Neat. All right, next up we have the Rabbit Scouts, which when I was backing this, they had originally called it Rabbit Hood, which really made me happy, and now they've changed it to Rabbit Scouts, so that makes me sad. And then on the back, we have the Spring Uprising. So they're just hirelings. You literally just add them. I wonder if you have to add them specifically to the clans that they represent, or if you can just put them in any, as long as you pay for them. I feel like that's what they would be, because they're like mercenaries, hirelings, right? They go where the gold is. Anyway, that's the Spring Uprising. Take that off the camera so that we can see the next one, the Bluebird Nobles, which also weren't originally called the Bluebird Nobles. I don't remember what they called them, but very cool. Hirelings for the Eerie. And the last dynasty. I think it's pretty cool. Adds another layer to this game. Oops, sorry. And last, for the hirelings in this box, we have the Feline Physicians. These are the hirelings for the Marquis de Cat. And then on the back of this card, we have the Forest Patrol. Pretty neat. And they have meeples that go along with them, which we're going to look at later. But first, we want to look at the Advanced Setup Aid. Oh, okay. So it's choose and set up map, choose deck, set up bots, seat players, set up landmarks. Set up hirelings. Draw 5 cards, set up factions, place score markers, choose starting hands. One thing that I really enjoy about Root, which isn't typical of most games, is that when they add more and more of these modular expansions like this, they give you aids that make it super easy to set them up, honestly. I couldn't ask for a better way to set this up. They did a really fantastic job on that. All right, I think the last thing we have to look at here is this big old bag of meeples. So let's jump in. First off, we're going to take a look at the Lord of Hundreds meeples, which is basically the same thing as all the meeples from the previous games and expansions, so on and so forth. It's just a little, I assume, mouse/rat, one side. And he looks so angry. And there's many of these. Many of them. Okay, next up we have... Okay, oh yeah, here we go. We have the Keepers in Iron, and these ones I was super excited about because they are silver paint. The paint on here is a silver, shiny, foily look. So they take that look of the armor on, and they're little badgers. Yeah, so there's our Keepers in Iron. And the next things are the hirelings, so I guess we'll look at the field medics and the... So these are the hirelings for the Marquis de Cat. And I don't know if they are different. I know that these ones must be the Forest Patrol. Yeah, so these are all Forest Patrol. And they just look like beat-up versions of the original cats from the core game. Very cute. And mean looking, obviously. What's next? Okay, so next we have the hireling for the Lord of Hundreds. And the big difference here is that he's carrying a flag. So we have, oh, and he's so much smaller. They look so angry. It's kind of funny. Okay, and then we have the hirelings for the dynasty, the Erie dynasty, which kind of look like a mixture between the Corvid and the Erie, because of that little black circle around their eyes. But I assure you, because of their color, they're definitely Erie. Next, we have the the Forest Alliance. I can't remember their exact name. Hirelings, the little bunnies and rodents and all that are upset and, you know, trying to save the forest. And lastly, we have this giant meeple that represents that bear vagabond. So let me just pull that card out because I thought it was so funny. Oh no. Here we go. The Exile. He's a bigger vagabond. His meeple is definitely bigger than a normal meeple. And I would say that the typical size of a vagabond meeple is about the same size as his bunny, so you can see that there's a major difference here. And he's special because he gets to start with those 3 clubs on this card. He's a big meanie. I'm actually super excited to play him. I've only gotten a chance to play the Vagabond once. And honestly, the game that we played was just not very well balanced. It was the Duchy, the River Folk, and my Vagabond. And honestly, we just did not gain control of that game fast enough to take out the Duchy player. So, okay, so that is what you're getting in the expansion, the Marauder expansion. That's all the stuff that you'll receive in there. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is this hireling box, which is just going to have the remaining hirelings that I haven't shown you. So this is going to have the hirelings for the lizard cult, the corvid, the moles, the river folk, so on and so forth. All the rest of the factions, basically. So the Marauder expansion came with the hirelings for the two new factions in Marauders, as well as the Vagabond and the 3 factions that came with the core set. This should have the 4 other factions in here as well. And should really change up the way the game plays to some degree. Especially if you can hire them outside of your faction. I do like the fact that it came with its own box. I also hate the fact that it came with its own box, just simply because it's more boxes to put on my shelf, but, you know, maybe we can consolidate. Well, there's a lot going on. Oh, and it has a landmarks pack in here. Maybe, so let me pull aside the meeples, the landmarks pack, the hirelings card, extra bags. So first thing we're going to take a look at here is this guy. So unlike the rules to play and the law of root, I am going to go through this rule book just simply because this is new information, whereas the other stuff kind of isn't new information. Kind of teaches you how to play with the hirelings. Oh, okay. So I'm guessing that this is the control dice, which has something to do with both the T-shaped counters and the weird little star-shaped counters as well. Oh, the hirelings can switch to other players. I see. That can really change the way the game flows. Well, isn't that just scary? Okay. So, yeah, let's jump in. I think for starters, well, I guess we'll just take a look at this counter sheet real quick. So another counter sheet, this looks to be little safes, and these appear to be more tunnels, I assume, because the moles use tunnels. I guess we'll look at the landmarks next too, which use another foil paint on it. And it came in this nice little box, so it feels like a shame to get rid of this. I guess I won't. You know, just destroy it on camera. Oh, and it's so nicely packed. Dang, they did such a good job with this. Huh, very cool. Okay, the landmarks pack comes with, I assume, a bag for the cards, and the cards are loosely packed in shrink wrap. So let's take a look at the cards. Okay. Okay, so some of these landmarks, like the tower, you're going to recognize this from the River Folk expansion or the Underworld expansion. I think this is from the Underworld expansion. So it's not in here because it had already existed prior to the making of the rest of these landmarks. So this one is for the tower. Followed by the ferry, which again I think came with the Riverfolk expansion. Oh, it was found in the Underworld expansion. It actually says right there, found in the Underworld. Oh, both of these were. Okay. So you can see that these two landmarks were specifically found in the Underworld expansion. They tell you what they do, so on and so forth. Then we have the Legendary Forge, which just looks like an anvil. And some rules about that. We'll flip the card over. Cool. We have the Black Market. The Lost City. The Elder Treetop. Oh, I love that it says at the very top, not recommended for 2-player games, which is really great because it can kind of help you not imbalance your games. I just think that they really integrate the modules in this super well. They do a really good job of streamlining it so that it's not completely imbalanced every time you play it, although you could play it any way you want. It gives suggestions, and honestly, the suggestions are really good. And it talks about landmark setup. That's pretty cool. And then the landmarks themselves that came with this. So we've got that anvil. And again, you can see that foil paint. Gold foil paint. We've got the Black Market. With a dude that looks like Blue Regard, Q Kazoo. The Lost Village. And the Elder Tree. So those are our landmarks. Let's see if I can get these back in without... You know, I knew I was going to have this trouble. Good enough for me. All right. Next, we're going to take a look at the new hirelings. We'll look at the cards first. Okay, so starting with the Stoic Protector. On this flip side, we have the Furious Protector. Raven Sentinels. And then again on the flip side, we have the Corvid Spies. We have the Mole Artisans. And then on the flip side, we have the Sunward Expedition. We have the bandit gangs. And then on the flip side, we have the highway bandits. We have the lizard envoys. And on the flip side of that, we have the warm sun prophets. We have the otter divers. And on the flip side of that, we have the riverfolk flotilla. We have the street band. And then on the flip side of that, we have the popular band. We have ourselves the Badger Bodyguards. And then on the flip side of that, we have the Vault Keepers, and that's where those vault tokens, those safe tokens come in. Oh, those are buildings. Interesting. And what appears to be the last, we have the rat smugglers. Okay, so they're rats. Okay, they're not mice. And on the flip side of that, we have the flame bearers. Oh, right. So the last thing we have to look at are the meeples for all of these different hirelings that we have. So let's just pop open this bag. It's a big old bag. Get rid of that disc kit pack. We have the flotilla just floating around in there in no bag. So this is what the flotilla looks like. They're just trying to peddle their goods. Next up, we're going to have the street gang dudes. I think they're supposed to represent like porcupines, hedgehogs of some sort. So those are that. We've got the flame bearers and the rat dudes. These guys are slightly different from the original ones. They're facing a different direction. They have a bite taken out of their ear, and their noses are black, as if charred by fire. We've got our badgers, the vault protectors, and the badger bodyguards. Also, still in the silver foily painting. So it still has that very shiny, foily look. You can see the little key hanging off of their cloak there, so they're in charge of these vaults. Very cool. We got the mole artisans and the sunward expedition. So, some more little mole meeples. Very cool. We have our lizard cult dudes. They look very similar, but I think they're facing a different direction. There's only 4 of these guys. Then we have that protector dude. He's got a huge meeple like that Vagabond hireling. So it's much bigger than the other ones. You can see right there. He's just a single meeple. And we have the Corvid conspiracy meeples. These guys just look like they're wearing glasses as opposed to the other Corvids. And I think also, just like the other factions, they're facing the opposite direction. And last but not least, we have the popular band and the street band, which just look like cat-like creatures playing flutes. Yeah. Pretty cool. All right, yeah, so that's it. That's what you're going to get with the Hirelings. That's what you're going to get with the Marauder expansion, both of which I believe will be available for retail. I'm not exactly sure when. I know that they're going to fulfill all of their Kickstarters before they start putting anything into retail. I'm sure that it'll become available online pretty soon here. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below, but let's keep the comments positive. I will be removing any negative comments, just not necessary. If you like the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. And if you feel the need to support me, hit me up on my Patreon at patreon.com/uncommonramen, capital U, capital R. I do all this in my free time, so any amount of support I can get can help me bring more of this content to you more often. I think that's it, guys. Until next time. Peace.